And it's frustrating.
Doug Peterson not sugarcoating how he's feeling there. Look who joins us now, Jeff Saturday, looking extra dapper today. Good to see you, Jeff. I will get to you in just a moment, but you know who I'm starting with, all matters concerning Carson Wentz, and that would be this guy, Max Kellerman. So, Max, who's more to blame now for the Eagles' struggle so far this season? Are you putting it on the coach in Peterson, or are you putting it on the quarterback, Carson?
The quarterback won't listen. The quarterback obviously has juice with the owner. I mean, everyone has heard this by now. And is he running Peterson's offense? And by the way, if you run a little screen with a receiver, you got to go right to the receiver. He starts to throw, he pulls it back. He doesn't trust what his eyes are seeing him first series of the game. Off a bye, you think this wasn't a point of emphasis for Carson Wentz, and then he forces the throw? Right? You think that's not a point of emphasis for Carson Wentz? And, I mean, maybe this last week I can't point to any single play where it's like, oh, my God, that's awful. Like so many plays throughout the course of this season. 13 turnovers in 8 games in Eagles territory, right? There was nothing like that, but there was also no play where I was like, boy, that's a really good play by the quarterback. He's getting paid over $100 million to make those kind of plays. He's getting paid over $100 million to compensate for problems on the team, when in fact, guys, the truth of the matter is he has been outplayed by every single opponent he's faced this year. Just by the way, by the eyeball test, by quarterback rating. The opponent's always had a higher quarterback rating than Wentz, and he hasn't faced the who's who. Daniel Jones has outplayed him twice. You know, he has not been good. He's made the same mistakes repeatedly, and I will remind everyone, after the game 2 weeks ago, he comes out and says, this is probably always going to be my problem, knowing when to eat it, knowing when to try to make the play, and that's just the way we do things around here. He's not being held accountable. He hasn't been benched. He's the problem. If you want me, I said a couple weeks ago, he wasn't the reason they're losing. He needs to be the reason they're winning. At this point, I also think he's one of the reasons that they're losing.
Well, I disagree with you. I'm not trying to knock, or rather to elevate Carson Wentz. I know that he's not having an impressive season. He's only completing 58% of his passes. He's got 12 interceptions to go with 12 touchdowns. There's nothing to brag home about. So I'm not trying to sit up there and completely absolve him and act like he's not a part of the problem. I get all of that. But I'm looking at the entire team, and I got to look at the head coach because of the multitude of problems that they have. They have a problem with pass protection. Carson Wentz has been sacked 35 times. By the way, I understand that he holds on to the football a little bit too long sometimes, but a lot of times he doesn't have time to throw the damn football because pressure is all over him. This past weekend, he was hit 13 times. I mean, come on. They were all over him, for crying out loud. They apply pressure all day long. And Joe Judge, by the way, is doing a hell of a job with the Giants. I don't give a damn about their record. I like him as a coach. I like him more and more every week, okay? But let's look at Doug Peterson and the job that he's doing. And let me preface my comments, Jeff Saturday, by saying I don't believe that Doug Peterson deserves to be fired. I think that people that have speculated that he'll be gone acting like that's justified. I pointed out the speculation, but I don't think it's justified. He's a Super Bowl champion. They've been to the playoffs the last 3 years. This is his 5th season coaching. They missed the playoffs the first year. They made the playoffs the last 3. They might miss the playoffs this year. But you have problem with pass protection. You got running backs and Sanders and those boys there and Boston Scott that can run the football. Their numbers show they can run the football. You're not giving the football to them enough. That's an additional problem. You've got a plethora of injuries. You've never had Deshaun Jackson really available to you because he can't stay healthy. That's problematic. You've got problems on the defensive side of the ball at your linebacking spot and in your secondary. And oh, by the way, that you still giving up, or you still ranked 26 in terms of your rushing defense. So all of those things get taken into consideration. When you look at the problems on the offensive side of the ball, you rank 27th in yards accumulated on offense, 27th in your passing attack, 24th overall as an offense. Defensively, you can't stop the run. You can't protect the quarterback with pass protection. You won't run the football enough. There are so many different problems that you have to look at the coach. And the reason you have to look at the coach, you can look at the quarterback when it's just the quarterback. Damn, all of this is working. Receivers are open. Running backs are running. You're getting pass protection, plus good run blocking. The defense is solid. Damn, Carson Wentz, you got to get it together. That's not the issue. The issue is everywhere we turn with the Eagles, other than their front four or their front seven, there seems to be a problem. And when it's like that, you're looking at both sides of the ball, and that's when you look at the coach. You got to fix that, Doug Peterson, plain and simple.
Yeah, I will agree with you on the injuries, right? Like, you had one offensive lineman at one point that was supposed to be a, quote, starter, being Kelsey, who was playing. Everybody was out or injured. So from an offensive line perspective, they have been injured, had to move guys around, guys have gotten in. That part has been difficult. However, when you talk about paying a quarterback $100 million, you pay him $100 million so you overcome all the stuff that you are saying. Now, is it tougher to overcome it? Is it a, hey, we lost a couple because of it? The issue is Carson Wentz is part of the problems. The $100 million man is part of your issue. And I will tell you about the sacks. The sacks are partly on him, right? Everybody always talks about interceptions, all have a story. Well, so do sacks. And when the quarterback double clutches it, pulls the ball down, and will not let it go when receivers are open, there's an absolute problem. He's always waiting. He always waits that split second to watch a guy come open instead of throwing a guy open. Again, when you're paying a guy $100 million, that can't be your issue. I think that's the larger point, is when you're talking about Doug Peterson, and I'm 100% with you, Stephen A. Like people are talking about, I do not think this man needs to be fired, right? He's a good football coach. He understands what he's doing. The issue I have with it is the accountability in the building. If your quarterback still can't get it right, why aren't we working Hurts in? If he's bad, then you need to come out and say, hey, look, he's not ready to play. We got to ride Carson Wentz. This is what it looks like. But what happens is Wentz is putting your defense into a difficult situation because they're horrible on third downs, right? They can't convert. So what does that do? It exposes your defense on the other end. I mean, complimentary football goes a long way. And when you talk about a guy, it's hard to be perfect in football. When you're 0 in third downs, that's a bad sign, right? I mean, so like for my issue is my quarterback, my $100 million man, he's got to be the reason why we're winning some that we shouldn't win, not the other way. He can't be part of my issue if he's the guy. And
finally,
the other part that Matt started with, and I'll say this. Yeah, listen, when you start talking about the quarterback and the owner are linked and not your head coach, you got serious issues, man. You got locker room issues because now you got guys forging relationships based on, hey, preservation, where are we going to be? It can never be that way, right? Owner and coach got to be locked up, man, because ultimately all that feeds down in your locker room. You can't have everybody on the defense going, he ain't never going to get pulled because owner won't let him, even if he's trash. You can't
have your team thinking, I can't be on the wrong side of my quarterback or I'll be gone, especially when you mentioned third down. What do you call third down? The money down. Over. Not conversions, completions. Over. Now, if your quarterback has a direct line to the owner, has the locker room scared behind that, and not only won't do the simple things, right, because he's not game managing, but also you gave him that $100 million because he can do special things that other guys can't do. When he's not doing that either, what are you paying for?
Yeah, well, you know what? What you're paying for is the coach to coach him. He has to do a job. We don't have time to get into this again, but the bottom line is that they made a decision. Doug Peterson's job is to figure that out. If, for example, the other day, why are you running the football just 18 to 19 times if you worried about your quarterback in your passing game, but you're running the football effectively? Run the ball 30 times. Run it 35 times.
Yeah.
Period.
Well, hey, hold on. Let me say this. You can't listen. They were third, and a lot of that had to go with penalties. That does go to coaching, but the penalties, they had 11 penalties for almost 100 yards. That's so fair. That put them behind the 8 ball. They were averaging well over 4 yards a clip. So I do agree you got to run more or be structured. But here's the deal, Stephen A. If he's $100 million man and you got 3rd and 10 8 times. At least get it 30% of the time. Give me 40% of the time. At least I can go home and have an argument. But when you're freaking over, like at some point, my dude's got to be the dude, right? Like you got to be the dude, man. Like we
benching him has nothing to do
for a reason. But I got to see that. Otherwise, when I go back to huddle, I got no confidence you're going to be able to do it. You know what I mean?
Jeff, benching him has nothing to do with how I'm sure Hurts is awful in practice. He's been bad, period.